There's another narrative that's gaining traction. I just want to get your view on it because it is interesting, is privacy. And this kind of rise of Zcash and the idea of zero knowledge. And, because as we build out this and blockchain is getting co-opted by the institutions and the governments, that if we're not careful, we've just given our bank accounts publicly to everybody on the internet. And somewhere within this, if we see where Europe's going with regulation, Australia's been, regulating individuals highly. The UK has, Canada has. It's like people are like, you know what, we probably still need privacy as a main thing. How are you thinking about that? Have you been involved in that trade at all?
Yeah, so if we look back in history, it's probably one of the trades we got wrong at launch. So when I actually launched this fund, we had two kind of key themes. One, that were proof of stake blockchains would take over the vast majority of crypto. We got that one right. Second one was that privacy coins looked grossly undervalued. And as we saw growth in the monetary assets like Bitcoin, we would see a commensurate growth in the privacy spectrum as well. And so, if you look at any economies, right, as a normal economy grows, the black market in that economy sort of grows side by side. And I don't want to ring fence it to the exact analogy, but yeah, it's a similar thing that we thought our view was we would have a dominant monetary asset, which has become Bitcoin, and there would be a dominant privacy monetary asset that would be much smaller, but would serve a market that would grow at a similar rate to that. Now, I think we got that wrong. I think a couple of things happened. Those markets didn't get the liquidity. They lost a lot of their utility because, frankly, they got off-boarded by most exchanges, right? And so they didn't have that liquidity to meet the users. Or maybe we were just 7 years early and we're starting to see that.
Well, there's a lot of people who've owned this stuff for a long time saying this is one of the foundational principles of crypto, and people forgot it for a while because the governments weren't involved and because big banks weren't involved. It was like, doesn't really matter. And now suddenly it's like, oh, okay, maybe it does.
Yeah, I think, and when we launched our fund, had pretty material holdings in Monero, and it was, one of our biggest holdings for probably a year and a half. Now, the chart actually is not too bad. If you look at it compared to Bitcoin, it's not a disaster, particularly versus a bunch of stuff. But, maybe the time's come. You've seen, as you mentioned, you've probably seen, you've seen governments move much more on a censorship level than they were 7 years ago. And you've probably seen a regulatory regime get less intense in terms of their combat around some of these assets. So we are at an interesting point. So it's not a complete surprise. I think the only thing I would note from us at an institutional level, there's still sort of difficult assets to hold. Yeah, I remember working with our auditor to try and prove that we owned the Monero. And to be honest, that was kind of one of the best sales pitches I actually saw firsthand. He's actually trying to prove that we owned it to our auditor was super tough, which is a validation of how hard it is to actually track.
I love it. So you obviously like this video enough that you've got to the end. That's quite a big task. But listen, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and also check out what video's next, because I think you'll love it. But if you want even more, and when I'm talking more, I'm talking about member-generated ideas, incredible alpha, research, everything there to help you in your journey, just head to realvision.com/join for the best financial intelligence out there and the pure alpha that's within the platform.